Okay.
We are live. Uh, Give it about 30 seconds to,
Get
because
the
it takes
YouTube.
it, yeah, it
Yeah.
takes it a few minutes to, and Lee, watch if you don't mind, watching the comments since you seem to
That's
be
what
good
I'm
at that.
doing. Yeah.
And what I will do is to kind of break up segments with that instead of like trying to, kind of deal with them as they come in.
Yeah.
So we don't interrupt the flow of the show. And so just kind of do like one in between, like after the what we've been drinking, and then the kind of go from there. And just read like pertinent, interesting, like
Yeah.
we don't need to read every comment because sometimes it's just like one guy sitting there going like, you know,
Okay, we're good to go on YouTube.
all right, awesome. All right, you guys ready?
Let's do it.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the Beyond the Poor podcast. If I have done my math correctly, this is episode 18 or 19. I'm not
19.
sure. It's 19. It's been a while since we've done one. My apologies. This is definitely a more of a quarterly or an occasional podcast at this point, and yet I still pay a monthly hosting fee. So this is try to get back on this. But today we're going to be we have a few topics. We're going to be kind of catching up on some stuff. I am joined by my regular co-host Ryan. Say hello, Ryan.
Hello. Cheers, everyone.
And also our increasingly regular co-host, Lee, from out in Canada.
Hello.
And so today we're going to start off, we're going to talk about what we've been drinking lately and what we're drinking right now. And then we're going to move into a discussion of the National Homebrewers Conference, which was a couple of months ago, or about 6 weeks ago now, which Ryan attended, and that was in Grand Rapids, so close to me, and we'll talk a little bit about the visit that Ryan had here. And then we'll move on into a discussion of the recent Stone kerfluffle with the Indiegogo campaign to build their facilities in Berlin and east of the Mississippi. And then kind of talk about brewery crowdfunding sources in general. Kind of full show today, so let's get started. Lee, why don't we start with you? What are you drinking right now, and what of interest have you been drinking lately?
Lately, probably not a lot because I've been sort of on a hiatus, but right now I am drinking Garrison's newest IPA, which is basically their standard IPA they finally put on their lineup.
Nice.
Before then they just had a double IPA. So
that's like the first time they bottled it, and it's been draft only. Is that the case?
no, it's they did some test batches beforehand and decided what they liked out of both test batches, and now this is basically the finished product. So it's now like standard in their lineup.
Okay.
Before they didn't have an IPA standard. So
Okay.
Nice. So how is it? Is it a good beer or?
It's okay. I mean, Ding would probably disagree, but it's a sessionable IPA, in my opinion.
That's a name we don't mention on this podcast any longer, but that's fine.
Yeah.
We won't tag him in the on Twitter unless you want to.
Not that he'd look anyway.
Yeah, no, he doesn't care about us, but no, that's fine. Is it would you say it's like kind of hop forward, more malt forward? I mean, what would you compare it to? That you
It's very well balanced. It's not one of those ones where it's like extremely complex or anything. It's just like a really nice fruity hop bite to it, nice lingering bitterness, and it's got enough malt backing it up. It's basically your standard drinking IPA. Really, really good. It's something you could drink all the time. So,
sure,
thumbs up.
Awesome. Anything else you've been drinking lately you want to talk about, or you just want to move on?
We'll move on.
All right, Ryan. Same question, obviously. What are you drinking right now, and what have you had lately?
Okay,
and
right now.
Lately should mean like in the last 2 days.
Yeah. So I'm drinking, since we're filming this as well, the Unapologetic IPA, one of the million zillion collaboration beers that Stone does these days. This one's with Beechwood out of Long Beach, California, and Heretic. They're up in Northern California in the Bay Area. Using a lot of like new experimental hops, Azacca, HBC 342, Belma, and 6300 It's really like fruit forward, a lot of like melon, stone fruit character, a little different than your typical IPAs, and it's a little different for Stone too in terms of being a 8.8% double IPA. It doesn't have that huge bitterness to it, that lingering. It's definitely more hop flavor than bitterness, and just a simple malt bill to kind of support the hop. So it's pretty nice beer. Just did a review of it, so you'll see that on my channel likely next week. A cool beer I want to mention here, because I will do a review of it as well, but there's a brewery in San Diego called Latitude 33, and we'll get to the other Latitude in a bit, but they did a collaboration beer with one of the members of the Pink Boots Society. That is a all-female beer industry group that's now worldwide, and sort of the woman who's been kind of taking over, been in charge of that here in San Diego, did a collaboration beer with them called Worldly Scholar, and it's to help raise funds for female brewers, female people in the industry. I think it's mostly female brewers, though. And they did a oatmeal pale ale that drinks more like a session IPA. It's very hop forward, and with Nelson Sauvin and Motueka hops. Very good. I've been drinking that, and I've been drinking some Alpine. I made a trip down to Alpine Beer Co. A couple weekends ago, so I'll be getting into some duet when we take a break here, and I'm finished with the Unapologetic. So, and then earlier I was down to AleSmith for had some Speedway Stout variations. So that's what's been happening the last couple days for me.
Nice. As for myself, I'm drinking the Great Lakes Oktoberfest, which for our
wow, out already, huh?
Out already, and it's delicious as always. This is one of my favorite. This might be my favorite American Oktoberfest. It showed up super well. I mean, you know, they kind of show up around July around here. It was really hot out today. It was like almost 80 Fahrenheit. So you know, it was just scorcher for Kalamazoo, Michigan. So we were, you know, so a little bit warm, but you know, Oktoberfest. I don't know. Anytime I can drink a nice, well-flavored malty lager that's not too sweet is a good day for me. And so I wish I could drink these year-round, honestly. Yeah, that's what I'm drinking right now. I've got a Two Hearted on tap or on deck for the next, you know, for when I finish this. Just sitting on my desk, just waiting on me to crack it open. So I'll let you know when I crack that open. Lately, and this is something that we were kind of do as part of our, you know, not this segment, but I'll just go ahead and put it in here. I've been doing downtown walking tours, downtown Kalamazoo. There's a new company, or a company that started last year. It's West Michigan Beer Tours, and they do bus tours, and they do all kinds of stuff where they take people around to breweries, mostly private, but they're doing some downtown public walking tours, and I am employed by this company to take people around to breweries and let them see them, which is cool. There are currently 7 breweries and brew pubs in downtown Kalamazoo, and we go to 6 of them. The only one we don't go to was not open when we started doing the tour, so it literally just opened a few weeks ago, and it is just far enough away that it's tough to kind of get to on foot, so it's just a little bit further than we'd like to take a group of 30 people to go walk. But it's a cool job, and it's cool to get to do it. I actually did one earlier today as we're recording this. So, you know, walking around downtown for 4 hours and drinking beer, and then typically I go home and take a nap because, you know, it's sort of, you know, that's just how the process works. But no, we hit Bell's, Arcadia. We typically hit 3 or 4 of the 6, so I've been drinking a lot of just the local stuff that's been made right here. Today I had there's a tiny little place called Tibbs, Tibbs Brewing Company, and they do a for porter. It's like a 7.8% porter, and they had it on nitro today, so I had one of those when I was there, and that was nice. And of course, a Two Hearted on the beer engine when I was at Bell's, and some samples at Arcadia. So you know, that's just kind of the way life goes. Always fun to get to drink a little bit while on the job. You know, I'm getting paid right now, and drinking. Always a fun process. Also, I've been drinking a ton of Stone. I had 2 bottles of Ruin 10 in the last week and a half or so, because that beer is amazing. We're going to be talking about Stone a little bit more as we kind of get into it. So I think that's all I've really had lately. It's really worth talking about, or at least fair enough. Moving on. Anything else you guys want to talk about before we move into our next topic?
No, let's talk about my visit.
Sure. Well, before we do that, Lee, did we get any comments yet that are worth talking about?
We got a couple from Paul.
This is on the live show, by the way, that we're broadcasting live to YouTube. We didn't tell anybody we were going to do it, so I'm not expecting a lot of comments. But I figured I'd throw these in.
So we've got a couple now from the Pennsylvania Sasquatch himself, PA Brew News. First he said we were all dirty, dead, sexy motherfuckers.
That's true.
Yeah, he said sessionable for us is somewhere between 8 and 80% ABV.
Sure.
Also true. And he says, so far Victory Fest beer is his favorite American Oktoberfest. He said he'll check out the Great Lakes offering. He's going to crack open the Lake Erie Monster when he gets home, along with another Hoppin' Frog Doris the Destroyer.
Nice.
Sounds like a plan, yeah. No, the Victory is a nice one. I remember that being a little bit paler malt than I really want out of a Oktoberfest. I like these kind of more amber brown hue, kind of ones.
Yeah, more traditional. Yeah.
More traditional. Although the ones in Germany are actually lighter malt now than the German ones have been dumbed down in the last 3 or 4 years, which is amazing to me because I remember really loving the Weihenstephaner Fest beer back in the day, and then I tried it a few years ago, and then suddenly it's like, wow, this is like pale and nothing. And I thought, am I going crazy? And then I started reading up on it, and it's like, no, all of them. I think Spaten is still pretty decent, but
Eyinger is still my favorite. The Eyinger.
Eyinger's phenomenal.
I love that beer.
Eyinger's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of tourist Oktoberfests at this point where they're much more lighter and more accessible to people who are used to macro lagers. I guess is probably where it's going.
Yeah, but like most of these Oktoberfests, they're more like just Hells or Dortmunders. I mean, that's not proper Oktoberfest. That's the frustrating part.
Right. No, absolutely, I agree. Really nice thing. I'm glad you mentioned that, Paul, because I wasn't even thinking of it on that level. I wasn't going to go into that much detail, but nice to get to chat about that. So, moving on, we'll be kind of doing comments at kind of regular portions during the show. So, Lee, just keep an eye on that for me.
Yep.
Because you are our official dealing with the public person on this podcast today, because we don't like dealing with the public.
If I'm the most personable person on here, then you have trouble.
No, you're the least. That's why we're having you do it. Anyway, so go ahead.
No, if there's one person to keep him straight, it's going to be Lee. I mean,
yeah, he's going to beat him off with a stick.
So.
All right. So next topic we're going to move into. We're going to talk about Ryan's trip to Kalamazoo and Grand Rapids. So Ryan actually got to sleep in my house for a couple of days, which was awesome. And we did not sleep together. I tried. I came in, I snuggled, but he shooed me away, and I value consent in these things. So we were we did avoid the little hanky panky, but I was trying real hard. It was sort of one of those things.
All I gotta say is Winton will be happy to hear that.
Winton, if Winton stayed here, we would just, Shannon, just go sleep in the other room. It's fine, Find a hotel. We're good.
Yeah, I let his wife sleep with him while I was staying there, which I felt was a little more proper.
Yeah, that's fair.
But so we're forgetting the very first part of my trip, and that was something that required Daniel's awesome wife to to make a nice sacrifice and pick me up in Chicago.
Well, so I don't want to get into the play-by-play.
No, we don't need to.
But we
anyway,
definitely.
You picked me up in Chicago.
we kind of were dealing with things, and like the situation was very different than I thought it might be when we agreed to do this. And then it's like, oh no, you're flying into O'Hare, and I'm like, oh well, shit. So by the way, baby, we need to drive to Chicago and pick up Ryan at like 9 p.m. You know, it's like a 2 to 3 hour drive one way. So fun times. Anyway, so. Go ahead, Ryan.
It did allow us to stop by the Three Floyds Brewery and pub on the way back.
Right.
Where we got to have Zombie Dust on draft, and we picked up some very nice beers to go as well. And I got a kick-ass Zombie Dust T-shirt, so very cool for you guys to do that for me. And then the next 2 days we spent hanging around Kalamazoo, doing the brewery pub crawl.
Yeah, doing essentially what I do for a living now, which is
right, exactly.
Ironic, you know. But
so I think it went something like late breakfast, more brunch, then Bell's, Shakespeare's Pub, and then we went to Central City Tap House.
Yeah.
And then
I'm trying to think of all the places we went. We did the beer.
Yeah, because there's a lot of them.
We
Beer
did Old
Stage
Peninsula.
was the next day.
Yeah.
Oh, Old Peninsula was the first day, I think. I don't know. So the 2 days get blurred together.
Yeah, I know. I know. I think one day we hit the beer exchange, which was nice. Unfortunately, we went early enough that they weren't really doing the exchange concept. But you got to see all the like cool beers that they had on.
Yeah.
And you got to try some cool stuff from Perrin. I remember. I was just out of it that week. I was just exhausted. It had just been a long like we were getting up, and I'm like, I could go drink, but I'm just tired right now. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
But we made it around, and I think we had a nice time kind of hanging out and checking out some cool beers.
It was a lot of fun. Arcadia, really cool new spot in Kalamazoo. That barbecue they have at Arcadia is phenomenal.
Yes. That's a must try in my opinion.
Yeah.
I tell people, like, even if you don't like the beer, which you should, or you're an idiot, but you should go for the barbecue.
Absolutely. I recommended that to a friend that lives in San Diego, part of the Quaff Homebrew Club I'm in, and he was originally, I knew he was from Michigan, but I didn't know he was from Pawpaw, and I told him if he was, after the conference, which we'll get to, he was visiting with some relatives, and I told him, you got to go to Arcadia and get the barbecue, and he did, and said it was awesome. So
yeah. Awesome. Well, that's great.
Highly recommended. Got to check out Tiffany's in Kalamazoo. Definitely the best bottle shop there, and bought some beers there to drink.
Yeah. Whereas also where I work.
Yeah. So I got to see where Daniel. One of the other jobs you work.
Yeah. No. My other job where I talk about beer all day. You know.
Right. So the. It must have been the Tuesday. Daniel kind of told me the bad news. Well, I'm going to be working that day, doing a tour. So I'm like, well, get me on the tour. So I got on the tour.
We did get you on the tour. It was kind of unfortunate. It was sort of one of those things where I would rather have gone to hang out with you all day, but for the amount that they pay me per hour to do those tours, it was kind of like it would have been suicide not to do it.
Right.
So yeah.
So one of the tours that Daniel was on, checked out Latitude 42 Brewing, which I was like, there's a Latitude 33. It's been open longer in San Diego. So, and it's really similar logo. That's kind of the scary thing. But anyway, they're not going to compete with each other anytime soon. So
no.
There's Old Mill, which was
Latitude 48 from Sam Adams is older than both of them. You know, so you know.
Right. And then Old Mill was literally in an old paper mill building, cool brew pub. And then we did Bell's in Arcadia. And I, instead of going back up to Grand Rapids where the tour started, decided, I'll just walk back to Daniel's house from Bell's, which was a nice kind of like break from drinking beer for like, 3 days straight at that point.
Yeah, we were on our third day at that point.
I needed a bit of a break at that point for the bottle share we were planning later that day, so a nice walk home,
right?
A few miles. But I'm sitting there, and I run into Mitch Steele from the brewmaster from Stone as I'm sitting there, and then he's like, "Oh, do you know Sean Paxton, the homebrew chef?" And I'm like, "No, I know his name and everything." So, right here, let me introduce you. And then I kept running into him the rest of the time I was in Michigan.
He
I think
literally
they were
texted
stalking
me
me.
10 minutes after we left in the bus to, because I had to take the rest of the tour group back to Grand Rapids. And he's like, yeah, Mitch Steele just walked in. And I'm like, you motherfucker.
It was less than even 10 minutes. I texted him 10 minutes later.
Mitch Steele walked into Bell's, and I was there 10 minutes earlier. And
no,
Ryan
you were there 3 minutes earlier.
I was
just
there
texted you
3
10
minutes earlier.
later.
That's amazing.
It was funny. And I was sitting
Mitch
there
Steele
in a Stone shirt.
Who doesn't know,
Yeah, I was sitting there in a Stone shirt, and he's like, all I hear behind me is, hey, I know that guy. So it was pretty funny because I ran into him also during the conference, at Hopcat in Grand Rapids, and Brewery Vivant in Grand Rapids. He was stalking me.
The NHC was essentially, I didn't get to go because they really fucked up their pricing schedule this time. Yeah. It was going to be $240, and I'm like, I'm not going to pay that to go to the NHC. I really wanted to go. I joined the AHA specifically so I would have the opportunity to go. And I mean, there are other benefits as well. But really, I was like, I really want to go to the NHC. And it's 45 minutes from me, and I will go and I will get a cheap hotel room, and it will be fine. And then, it was $240. And I was like,
they made you buy the whole conference.
They made you buy the whole conference, which hopefully, well, it won't matter to me next year because it'll be in San Diego, I think, next year. And I'm not going to fly out to San Diego for it. But anyway, I actually took a tour group of NHC people, of AHA members, to Jolly Pumpkin and Dark Horse and Bell's, which was also another fun tour to get to go all the way out to Jolly Pumpkin. So and see their facility, which isn't even open to the public yet. They don't even have their beer garden open yet, but it was like a special thing they did for us, so it was really cool.
So my only question is, Ryan, what kind of tour guide is Daniel?
Shitty.
He's fine. I mean, the tour I went in was kind of led by, I guess, one of the head guys, co-owner guys.
Yeah, one of the co-owners was really running those tours. I was kind of still in training at that point.
Yeah, he was kind of in training mode, but he got to talk beer with people. I mean, they see the beard, they know he knows beer. I mean, that's pretty much is how it works.
My job on the bus tours is a lot more like make sure people get back on the damn bus than it is to actually be informative and useful. It's especially on a 50-person tour, which that was. It's a fun job, but it really is like they should really just issue me a baton, like a police baton or something.
Yeah. Herding cats. So anyway, without boring the rest of the conference in Grand Rapids, went to Founders, world-class brewery facility, good deli sandwiches there. Went to Stella's, had a really good burger. Hopcat, Daniel kind of warned me Hopcat's maybe not as good as you think it is, and I kind of agree. I mean, it was kind of a cool spot, but when it got really crowded, things
Hopcat's a nice bar, but it's also like I have Shakespeare's and Central City Tap House and Kalamazoo Exchange. Right. Within a half-mile radius in downtown Kazoo, and any one of those could take the place of Hopcat, I think,
Sure. So, I mean, good spot, but nothing mind-blowing or anything. And then Brewery Vivant was more mind-blowing between the food, which was phenomenal, and the beers are fantastic. I first heard of Brewery Vivant back in 2011 when Daniel was talking about them as being in this new brewery in Grand Rapids, and brought out some beers when he came out to San Diego for Beer Week and visited, and that was probably the last time I had tasted any Brewery Vivant, other than maybe like occasional beer someone might get in a trade. And so when I could go back and I tried a lot of their regular beers, and I was like, they improved so much, and they're making fantastic beers, and it's a really cool spot and a really historic neighborhood in Grand Rapids.
It's a bit of a gentrified neighborhood at this point. I'll be honest. I mean, that whole area is basically gentrifying at this point. People think Brewery Vivant is in a church, but it's actually in a formal funeral home, which is kind of ironic. But they do a lot of. One of the things that I love about Brewery Vivant is they do a lot of not just community, but they do a lot of like they're LEED certified. They're one of the only LEED certified breweries like in the country, if not the world. They are a B Corp, which I didn't even know what that was, but it's they were recently kind of certified as a B Corp, which is
I don't know.
having to do with like community sustainability and giving back to your local community in a lot of ways. So it's like ethical company guidelines sort of things.
Okay.
Which is I mean, I love their beer anyway, and I love the spot anyway, but it's great to know that your money is actually going to support good people doing good things too. So really nice. I love Brewery a lot. And you texted me and you said, is there anything on the menu that is a must try? And I immediately responded back, duck nachos. And he went, done.
They come out glistening and duck fat, and you're like, this is amazing. And it looks amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't look that amazing. I should take that back. But it comes out so glistening, you're like just drooling with the glistening, chips on there from the duck fat. And then you dig in, and it was like, and we had someone
How many
ordered
times can you
pate.
use the word glistening in this
Yeah.
sentence?
It's like, yes, destroy my heart. I don't care.
know.
I don't want to live to 50. Screw that crap.
But it
And
was
you
very
can get that duck confit on a burger. Like, you can order a burger and say, hey, can you put that duck confit on the burger? And they go, yes, we can, sir. That's
yeah.
that's
that
how they
was
roll.
kind
But
of-
Sweet.
the
Yeah,
first
I
time I ever tried poutine was actually there, too, which is
Oh, really?
really nice. Yeah. Yeah, at least, like, I was eating poutine out of a baby food jar,
Honestly, I've only had poutine once in my life. I'm a very bad Canadian, so.
What?
Yeah,
No.
yeah
That's
no.
crazy talk.
Well, you did just say a boot, so,
A boot. Did I say that? Did I say a boot or a bout?
Boat.
So anyway, let's
How was-
wrap up the NHC. Just
Yeah,
how was
I
the
mean,
actual conference? Like,
Conference was good. It was pretty well run. They had one minor issue with the so-called pro night or opening toast. They let us in a little late, and they didn't have all the beers pouring. Like, they were just kind of late to set that up. Other than that, everything else was great. And
any
some
like
good
great
talks.
panels that you think were like really worthwhile? Can you summarize that a little bit, or?
Yeah, well, I'm big into brewing and drinking sour beer these days. So Mike Tomsmeyer, the Mad Fermentationist, did a great talk on brewing those type of beers and your wort composition for the type of sour you're going for. And there was one guy, and I forget, he does do a podcast, and I can't remember the name of the podcast, but he did a talk called Scaling Down, I believe was the name of it, and he talked about using smaller size brewing to not only get a quicker brew day, but to experiment and try all kinds of new things, doing 1 or 2 gallon batches at a time. And that was a really cool talk. Trying to remember what else. Wasn't necessarily learn a. It was I did learn some things, but Ken Schramm, who is a Michigander, wrote. He's one of the leaders in current day mead making. He now has his own meadery, and he did a talk on honey and kind of the history of honey, the history of mead, and he passed around, I believe it was 12 different types of honey that were all very amazing. You could really get the flavors like coffee honey and different types of orange blossom honey, and you could really get the different flavors from these different honeys, and that was kind of a interesting tasting, actually getting to try some honey throughout his talk.
What's interesting, I've been looking into the chemistry of honey, and honey is essentially just dehydrated sugar. I mean, it's like dehydrated sugar water,
Yeah,
essentially.
it's what, like sucrose and glucose and...
Right, and it's basically like the bees just extract water from the solution.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
that's really all they're really doing. And so it's really interesting to think about like how simple it is, and yet you can get such like sublime like things out of really nice honey.
Yeah,
Right,
It's just,
and-
it's just whatever the bee decides to drop on and start sucking out. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And, you know, he talked about how important bees are in our ecosystem and how, you know, there's definitely an issue with a decline in their population and killing them off with pesticides and all that. It kind of went into a little bit of some of that and how actually important bees are in the history of mankind
Yeah.
and how we need to treat them better than we have been. And hopefully a lot of these mead seems to be an up and coming, even though it's probably arguably the oldest beverage in human existence. It's these days one of the lesser known ones, and hopefully some of these new meaderies are coming out. They're getting pretty big. There's Bee Nectar in Michigan.
Yeah, Bee Nectar, which is not that far from me, an hour or so.
And there's Moonlight Meadery. I think they're in New Hampshire or in northern Massachusetts, somewhere in the East Coast, making some phenomenal meads. And they're kind of helping get awareness out there with of the different types of mead possibilities, and kind of helping out with the improving the trying to help out the sourcing of their honey, and getting good bee hives, and I don't know all the terminology here to describe this properly, but
An apiarist.
Yeah. Just
I just wanted to use the word apiarist at some point on this podcast.
Yeah, you're a retired Sherlock Holmes. That's what it is.
So it was a great trip, great conference. Really looking forward to San Diego because I won't have to fly anywhere, and I still will get a hotel room at the conference just to make things convenient. And
sure.
I don't feel like getting a DUI either, so
that's a good idea.
Because there's no way you can drive home after any conference event.
Yeah,
it's impossible.
All right. Well, anything else to add about the conference, or anything you want to say about any of that, Lee?
No, it sounded like it was really good.
I'm gonna grab another beer, so you guys see if we have any new comments, and I'll be back very quickly with some Alpine Duet.
Do it.
All right. We'll do a little refresh here.
All this gets edited out of the finished audio podcast, so this is video viewers only, a little bonus content from you guys. I should pull up my dick or something. It would be.
All right, we've got more comments from PA Brew News here. He says he loved the Hacker Shore back in the day, but now it's crap, and I agree. It definitely is a lot different than what it was years ago.
I don't think I had that last year, but I remember,
But it is now decidedly on the more lighter colored, more Hell's Lager type of Oktoberfest, so it's very depressing.
I did a beer class last summer 2013. At my job, where we were kind of bringing in, and we kind of did topics, and we did samples of beers, and what we did like a kind of Oktoberfest and pumpkin as part of our, as one of our meetings, as one of our classes, and so I did a lot of research into Oktoberfest at that point to kind of shore up on it, and I was amazed at the degree to which the Oktoberfest in Germany have just dropped off completely. Like they are pale lagers at this point. And the style known as Oktoberfest, that we now call Oktoberfest, dates back to like 50 years after the original Oktoberfest. Like what was served at the original Oktoberfest was really more of a Dunkel Lager. Lager, so.
Yeah.
Anyway, no, I actually did the research on this, but it was like a year ago, so all right. Sorry, Lee. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, it's all right. He's got a couple more comments here. He says he heard duck fat and just started drooling.
Yes.
He correctly says that the first time he had poutine was with me, which is true.
Was this recent? And the recent
the Rhinos Fest. We went to a really shitty restaurant and he had some poutine. So.
Gonzo's.
It wasn't Timmy Hortons, was it?
No, it wasn't Tim Hortons. It was Taps Restaurant, which is sort of a franchise thing here, where they make really shitty beer and they have okay food. That's about it.
Because to me, being from Southern California, Tim Hortons is a pretty legendary place that I have never eaten at, and I know it's a Canadian institution.
You're not missing a fucking thing, Ryan.
But here's the thing: there was one in Kalamazoo, but I didn't.
There's a Tim Hortons in Kalamazoo. It's really not anything special.
If
you've eaten breakfast, if you've gone to a Dunkin' Donuts, you've been to a Tim Hortons. I'm sorry.
Although I hear that Tim Hortons in America are worse than the ones we have here, I would still say that you probably have about 1 million different, even independent coffee shops in California that are probably way better than anything you get at Tim Hortons. So.
I have several in Kalamazoo, Michigan. The only reason we stop by the Tim Hortons is we need breakfast right now and we have to be right next to it. Like that's the reason to go to the Tim Hortons in Kalamazoo, at least as far as I'm concerned. Although I had a friend like years ago named Tim Hortons, so when I first heard about like the fact that there was a, it'd be like having a friend named Marshall Fields or something. Like really, Like, all right, more comments on the.
Yeah, just two more here from Paul. He says, now and again off camera, Lee drops some soft A's, as well as he may be a shabby Canadian, but he is still a Canadian. And he says he's got an apiary near him, so I'm going to be doing up a mead here very soon. 15 pounds for $40. Oh, hell yeah, bee nectar is good from what I've heard.
Bee nectar is really good. I've tried. I just don't drink a lot of it, but I've tried a lot of it, and it's really nice stuff.
Yeah, they do completely different style than your typical meads. Are more going to be into your higher alcohol wine territory, and they do a lot of definitely sessionable type of meads around 6%.
Yep. For a mead, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I mean that's mostly. I think they're 500 milliliter bottled stuff. I think the stuff that's the longer, skinnier, maybe 375 or 500 mils.
Those are kind of the old school bottles. Like that was kind of because I've seen them in Michigan go from being more of a kind of traditional mead maker, a little bit more boutique, to being something like we're gonna do kind of an Arnold Palmer style mead. And that's
right. It seems more like working man's mead.
Yeah, although it's still like $10 for a 500 milliliter bottle, so it's still like pricey enough that it's not really
every day.
You get a 6-pack for $10 than mead, but mead is. And people ask me like, why is it so expensive? It's like, well, honey costs a lot. That's what do you want me to tell you? If you're starting with honey as your sugar source, you're just going to end up spending a lot.
Especially when it's very high quality honey.
Exactly. I mean, you can get shitty honey, for cheap, but.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead. Sorry, I wasn't trying to. I was transition back into the actual podcast here. So
sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say if you want mead for free, get a time machine, go back to the Viking days. Otherwise, fuck off.
Sure. All right. So on to the Indiegogo campaign stuff.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, so we took a little break there. If you want to see all the bonus bullshittery that we engaged in while Ryan went to get another beer, you should feel free to check out the video version of this, which I'll link in the notes or something. But now we're on to our main topic, and this is we're going to be talking about the Indiegogo campaign that Stone... Ryan, you just summarize this for us, why don't you, since... This is Stone at San Diego. When Bells does something crazy, I'll do the summary of it.
Okay, so I knew about this a while ago, but I forgot. Oh wait, this isn't public knowledge. But Stone is opening a brewery in Berlin.
I'm special.
Germany.
My name's Brian. I live in San Diego.
So Stone's been wanting to open a brewery in Europe for 3 or 4 years now. And they finally got the building they always wanted in Berlin. So my understanding of the story was the German government owned this property, and Stone wanted to buy it, and I think some of the other German breweries or companies or other just people in Berlin didn't want the government to sell to Stone. So I guess some real estate developer came and bought it and then turned around and sold it right back to Stone. And
way to be a middleman. That's the capitalist impulse.
Yeah. So anyway, they have it sounds like
I can make an easy 20%. Just sell it back to Stone.
So yeah, I think it's actually a great spot because
Stone is opening up. Sorry, just to kind of summarize, Stone is opening up a new facility. They're making Stone Europe, and it's going to be in Berlin. Yeah. And they're shopping around for locations in somewhere on the east coast of east of the Mississippi. And from what I understand, they've got it down to either Ohio or Tennessee or something.
There's 3 states. Well, Ohio's one of them. Not the Carolinas.
It's not the Carolinas. That's over. Yeah. But anyway, so they're gonna open up a second facility. And so there are gonna be 3 Stones essentially. There's gonna be Stone east of the Mississippi, not in Asheville, North Carolina, which is nice. But the one in Berlin I think is the big story here. Because go ahead.
Yeah, and this is going to be a massive production facility, and the restaurant with the merch store and all that stuff.
It's going to be gorgeous. If I ever get to Berlin, I want to go to this thing.
Oh, absolutely. And I was in Berlin last year for work. Got about 3 days to spend walking around town, and I thought, you know what? A lot of people think, well, are the Germans ready for a brewery like Stone to come in there? And I kind of think they are. I was staying in the eastern part of Berlin, which, because it got so destroyed during World War II and then the Soviet occupation, a lot of East Berlin's really kind of new, built up, sort of modern, but not too westernized as, say, the west part of Berlin is, which is more like New York City-ish kind of vibe to it. East Berlin's a little more like up-and-coming hipster, sort of trendy, kind of the equivalent of North Park and South Park in San Diego kind of vibe, which I know
it sounds a bit like Prague, actually, where the Soviet occupation and kind of when freedom came, they kind of you kind of get this underground art vibe and a lot of kind of old school communist architecture that's got like really cool like Banksy style graffiti on it, sort of thing,
So I think Berlin's a really good spot for them to go. So anyway, they're going to open up this brewery, but they decided to have this. They have this whole campaign for cross-planetary brewing. So they want to do these worldwide collaborations, and they started a Indiegogo crowdsourcing campaign to raise $1 million to help. I don't even know, just to help do something. Because they're already investing like $20-30 million in this project, but they need another $1 million apparently from us. I think the campaign's aimed more towards people in Germany, in Europe, but you can certainly.
Well, let me kind of summarize, because they came out with the. Let me just kind of, because I kind of followed the controversy a little bit, but not a lot. But I kind of like looked at it, and I saw the Indiegogo campaign, and Stone's like building a new facility in Berlin, and I'm like, awesome. Maybe I'll throw a few bucks that way. Like like sure, if there's like, oh, I can give $20 and get a T-shirt or something, whatever, But I kind of looked at it, and they were anytime a kind of bigger organization or an organization that's perceived as big puts out like an Indiegogo campaign and sucks a lot of the air out of the room, people are gonna like criticize it. You see that all the time with the certainly Lee kind of sees this. I think a little bit if you follow movie news, like Zach Braff goes out and like decides to make a movie and like does an Indiegogo or whatever he did and gets a shitload of money. Where it's like, Zach Braff, you have other ways of getting money than to, try to crowdfund. And I think when we talk about crowdfunding in a more general sense, a little bit later, I think we can kind of get into some other issues with that. The way I saw it was, we're making some beers, we're making them available to people who want to give us money that's going to go to these it's going to go to like shore up the money that we have for this facility. We're kind of building support for it, and ultimately it's really just a way for beer geeks that already know what we're doing to get some rare beer out of it. And if you look at it that way, okay, fine, but I don't think people saw it that way.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately you get beer out, and they went back and they got so much criticism.
Yeah, such bad press on it. They actually like reduced the amount you had to pay. To get some
and they added in another collaboration beer, and they reduced the cost. So they're basically selling 1.5 liter bottles. A magnum-sized bottle of special international collaboration type of beers, and there's some other perks too. But anyway, it's kind of weird that they did this, but yeah. There was a lot of backlash.
Right. And I mean, I am very much of two minds about this, and I'm gonna, because I saw it very clearly as we have a lot of, I don't want to say rich beer geeks, but a lot of people who will happily drop $50 on a super rare bottle of something that they can use as trade bait. Why not take advantage of that and raise a little bit of money for our brewery?
Right.
And ultimately, it's a way of allocating rare beer for them, as opposed to a way of like seriously raising money. But I think a lot of people saw it and went, Stone is what, the 10th largest microbrewery in the country.
Yep.
Why not give that money to some other like Stone doesn't need your money. Like, great, these guys do fine on their own.
Oh, I think their revenue last year was over like $150 million or something like that.
Yeah, so I think it really how you felt about this kind of came down to whether you felt like this was realistically a way that they were raising money, or whether it was really more of a let's do something special for our fans.
Yeah,
And
kind of a
I wish they had not gone that route, just because it just puts a bad taste in my mouth to see a brewery that size do it. But at the same time, I
Right.
don't like if somebody wanted to give money to it. I don't feel like it's a horrible thing.
Right. Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on that. I won't be participating in it, but um, it's getting tough these days with craft beer in San Diego, particularly with now 90 plus breweries in the county. Uh, there's plenty of places to spend your money these days, plenty of choices, and it'll be interesting because beer prices are tending to kind of go up, especially the more limited stuff, and it's going to get to a point where a lot of people are like, I'm done with that. Just I'm done.
Yeah, I've been done
And
for a while, so
you've been done for a while.
I'm ahead of the curve on that.
Right, and I'm getting closer to being done with that too.
Actually, I'm just poor. That's really the key.
Yeah, but no, but you're even if you have the money, I think you would still just be like, well, I'm just gonna buy a case of something instead of one bottle.
You work around it. You work around beer long enough, and you just kind of get like the hype machine just bores you after a while.
Right, it gets old and it gets frustrating, and so anyway, yeah.
So okay, sorry, Lee. Do you have any thoughts on any of this? I don't know how close you've been following it. Lee kind of joined us at the last minute, so we didn't really get a chance to prep too much. So Lee might just very well go, yeah, I don't care. So
No, I mean Stone is definitely a brewery that is going to attract negative attention no matter what they do. They're just, I mean, there's a segment of the craft beer sort of audience, consumers or whatever, that are going to say fuck those guys because they're just hipsters or whatever, and they're gonna hate on anything they do. I honestly don't have a problem with what they're doing here. I mean, if they're offering really nice incentives for your donations, what's the problem with it? I mean, yes, Stone doesn't need the money. I mean, they're a very profitable brewery. They could just do it all on their own. That's great. Yeah, I don't have a big problem with it because it's not like some shady fly-by-night movie production that's saying, here, fund us, and we have all these different tiers of what you get for your money, and then at the end of the year they don't make a movie and you're screwed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not the same thing. So I don't have a big problem with it. If you want to pay the money to get some rare beers or whatever else out of Stone, hey, more power to you. You got the money to spend on it, great. That's awesome. Because, I don't think Stone is considered dubious or shaky or any sort of...
You can not like what Stone's doing, but they do stand by their product, and there was an issue with a very expensive barrel-aged beer a couple of years ago, and whether you opened the bottle or not, they gave you a full refund for it. And there's been issues with breweries, even other breweries in San Diego, that basically told you, no, sorry, we're not giving refunds, you're just screwed. And
yeah, well, there you go. I mean, what's the issue? It just sounds like people who want to they want to shit on Stone out of principle. Damn the facts You know.
I think that, and this is where I want to kind of move into crowdfunding as a topic in general, because I think we all broadly agree on this.
Yeah.
But talking about crowdfunding, I think that anytime, again, people see like a large organization who could have paid for it, who didn't need the crowdfunding aspect. What if Stone had said, if they had not done like an Indiegogo campaign, and they had just like put on their website, they had put through they said, we're trying to raise a little bit of extra money for our brewery, and look, we're selling this special rare thing for this cost, and just had avoided the whole crowdfunding thing together, had avoided the Indiegogo campaign, and just done it completely on their website, and just said, we're going to sell shares of this like batch of beer or something. Do you think there would have been the same kind of backlash for it, or do you think it's purely? I think they could have done, and I think that honestly, for somebody like Stone, that's a smarter move. Is to say, if we want to kind of put it out there, and we want to, because a few years ago I saw somebody, one of the European guys, bloggers that I kind of read occasionally, was talking about how the BrewDog guys, who are the kings of hype, but they did a kind of equity for punks thing a few years ago.
Right.
Where they actually sold shares of the brewery as a way of expanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that sort of thing. But this was kind of, I think anytime you use one of those crowdfunding websites, that it just kind of sends up people's red flags.
Yeah, it was probably the bad way to go for Stone. I mean, especially considering how just big and viewed they are in the scene. I mean, when you think of like crowdsourcing and stuff, you think of like newcomers coming in who have no money, and they want to make something really cool, and they're presenting all this great stuff like, here's what we want to do, here's what we want to produce.
Yeah.
You put this money towards this is what's going to happen, and you're going to get some sort of perks out of it. As far as Stone goes, they're very established, they're very big. No one here is thinking they're an underdog or they're hurting or anything else. So, the sort of crowdfunding Indiegogo thing is probably the bad way for them to go for it. I mean, because it immediately throws up red flags from people going, fuck these guys, why are they even on here? This is for people who are struggling, who actually need the money. So that will sort of gather that negative attention. But at the same time, it's like, if you're going to give money to Stone, you're probably going to get it back in spades as far as whatever you get out of it. So
I think that the logic of criticizing Stone for using Indiegogo or using a crowdfunding website essentially goes, so there are X number of dollars that people would spend crowdfunding. Like, there's X amount of money out there. And Stone using this service essentially means that some independent brewery that might be down the street from you that really needed 20 grand to get their licensing done or whatever isn't going to be able to get that because that money went to Stone. And I think in this case, I don't think that's true. I think people really saw the Stone thing, and if they wanted the rewards, they put the money in, and if they didn't, they didn't. At this point, as we're talking, it has not been fully funded. It's not even close, so I don't even know if it's going to be funded or not.
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting to see if that actually even happens. I suspect it will be. I mean, I would guess that they will eventually get their $1 million, but it hasn't been funded yet, so who knows?
I think that when they redid the pricing, I think it moved from 50 down to 30. I think that extra $20 really boosted that and probably will allow them to get there.
Yeah.
But at this point, it doesn't feel like Indiegogo. I mean, yes, they got it on Indiegogo, so whatever. But it just feels like another one of those things where any brewery where you throw a bit more money in and you're all of a sudden a more preferred member or whatever, and you'll get some specialties. I mean,
so with the brewery starting in Canada, has anyone done any crowdfunding up there? It seems to be kind of hit and miss in California, whether the brewery does it or not.
I don't think there's a lot of it here, honestly. There's no big examples that jump out at me. Most of the stuff here, honestly, a lot of breweries get government funding right away, so they start out Of course, it depends on the province. I mean, there's problems right now in New Brunswick where they are dictating now that you have to sell so much of your beer through the actual government liquor agency before you can even start selling your beer out of your actual establishment. So it depends on the province.
I love the idea that your governments pay breweries to start. Like, you know what we need to keep people in Canada? More booze. The winters are rough. We need more booze. That's the way to keep people here. They're not going to cross the border into the U.S.
It's just good. It's just good small business. It's a good economic small business investment. I mean,
no, I absolutely agree. I was.
Oh no, yeah,
it fell
I know.
Completely.
No, it didn't fall flat. I appreciate the joke. It's just yeah. But that is the sort of the mindset for most provinces around here. Not necessarily New Brunswick at the moment, but a lot of provinces are like, yes, small business, breweries make a lot of money, do a lot of good, so let's invest in them. So,
yeah, I mean, San Diego's done really well. I think they just passed something that allowed it wasn't funding, but it was cutting back on or making things easier for breweries to get started in San Diego. And I'm in the town of Vista, which is apparently very friendly to breweries because we have the most breweries per capita in the entire United States. My friend's is brewing at a new brewery called Toolbox Brewing Company. They're brewing, but they're not open to the public yet. But I think that they're going to be the 11th brewery in a town of 90,000 people. I think it is.
Wow.
And there's at least one more, if not two.
80,000 here in Kalamazoo, just you know.
Yeah, I mean, Vista's not exactly tiny, but I think there's Toolbox is going to be opening soon, and there's one or two more coming. So I think we'll be by 12, maybe by the end of the year.
I think like 70,000 people live in all of Nova Scotia, right, Lee? Like,
no, it's Nova Scotia is I think it's 400,000 people now.
Yeah. I was thinking it was like 8 people, like, and everybody owns a sheep.
Oh no! In my actual town, there are only 5 people. I know all of them by name.
Yes.
So I mean, if you want to call them out on the internet, I know. Yes, I know that person. I know that person.
Yeah, nice. Oh man, making fun of Canada is my favorite thing to do here on.
Yeah, you're the Kevin Smith of beer. You're the Kevin Smith of beer too. I guess.
I wish it was 1999 and that would be a compliment, you know. Yeah, like, oh man. Anyway, so while we're let's start wrapping up here.
Any comments? We should look at those.
Yeah. Let's look at comments and then kind of wrap up here. So
okay,
I think we're trailing off here.
Yeah, we got a couple here. Paul says he'd love to get some Heretic brews at some time. Do they bottle anything, Ryan?
Yeah, they do bottle. Probably 3 or 4 sort of core beers, and then they'll have probably 2 or 3 seasonals coming around. I don't know what their distribution is. If I imagine, it's probably just California at this point.
And James Staff says, hey, Ryan, do you think the Alpine beers they brewed at Green Flash and distributed are on par with the ones they do at their brewery? Nelson, Duet, and Hoppy Birthday, I guess, are the specific ones.
Sorry, I'm trying to get a bug here. But I don't know if I've had a single one of those brewed at Green Flash yet. I might have had the Nelson, which I know a bunch of people that are Nelson heads. They're really obsessed with that beer. I mean, it's a great beer. I'm just not obsessed with it like they are. They said,
I like to think that that's people that are obsessed with the '90s hairband Nelson.
Could be too. I don't know. I'll bring that up next time I talk to them. But apparently, the first batch that came out of Green Flash was fairly close. And I might have had that one, but I have not had Duet from Green Flash or Hoppy Birthday. My understanding is the Hoppy Birthday has been the furthest from the Alpine version in terms of flavor profile. But I think every month they're rotating through a different beer at Green Flash to brew and get that on draft. I mean, I hardly ever make it down to Alpine. It's like an hour drive, one way down to the brewery, which is in San Diego. When you have 90 breweries, it's the furthest one away from me. So I pass
when
a bunch
my
of
wife and
phenomenal
I were
breweries.
when my wife and I were down there, I really wanted to go to Alpine, but we looked at the map and it's like, it's tough to justify just because it's way out there and there's just no other reason to go. Like, I mean, I guess there is if you're there, but like.
No, that's the only reason to go to Alpine.
That's moving away from the ocean, and we like being close to the ocean in California.
Right. Yeah. So. So my answer is I don't think they're as good, but they probably could make them close based on at least the first Nelson batch. I think they can dial it in better.
And the final comment here is from Paul. He says he was in his bottle shop today. About 5 or 6 different bottles started at $28 a bottle and up to $40. I'd love to try them, but I can't drop that on one bottle. Wow, I would like to know what the hell those beers were. Holy fuck.
I have to admit I've bought some $40 bottles of beer before, but that is something I am not going to be doing that much more these days. It's just it's tough on the budget, and it gets to a point where I'm kind of like moving towards where Daniel's at, where as much as it's probably a phenomenal beer at $40, likely, I mean, maybe not, but I'm really happy with just having a really good, simple beer sometimes, and I doing a lot of the reviews and stuff and doing homebrew stuff, for me, I'm kind of like constantly reviewing a beer and paying attention to my mind, and every beer I'll get, even this like Duet I drink now that I've had before, I'll do like a mini review in my head. And a lot of times it's nice to have a simple beer where you just turn your mind off and enjoy it without really thinking much about it. And that's something like a Pilsner is great for that, where you can just go like, yeah, it's Pilsner, and enjoy drinking it, not thinking too much about it. I'm enjoying that more and more these days.
I think that just kind of following up on that idea, and I do want to go back and I want to talk about like really pricey bottles of beer here in a second. But talking about that idea, I think that there is this kind of logic of we as beer geeks sit and we talk about beer like as a thing, whereas most people use beer as a sort of thing you consume and enjoy while talking about something else,
Sure,
and so the concept of like we're going to sit and do tasting notes for hours about beer is great, because I think that there are beers that justify that, but I think that ultimately if that's all we're doing, we're losing something behind it. I think that even like we will Ryan and I did this coming back full circle when he was at my place. We'd open up some really high-end bottle of AleSmith and then open it and drink on it and do some tasting notes and then talk about other stuff while we were drinking. And
I mean, some people lose the fact that it's actually about enjoying the actual beer and just enjoying people's company and having conversation while you're drinking the beer. I mean, holy fucking shit! If you're gonna sit there for 2 hours and just talk about the beer itself, you need a life. Like, you really do. You need a life.
and I mean, we're like beer geeks who have collectively spent literally hundreds of hours, posting and editing and viewing and etc. videos and podcasts and blog posts and all that sort of thing about beer. But I do think that there is a limit to that. I think there is a point at which it's like, you know what? It's a great bottle. I opened it. I've been really like, I will go and open up a bottle from the cellar and open it up and pour it in a glass and sit and enjoy it and watch TV or play on my computer or whatever. And it doesn't have to be a
mental exercise in
it doesn't have to be like an event. It can just be,
Oh,
I
yeah,
opened this bottle
right.
because it was delicious, and that's great.
You felt
Going
like
back
it.
to going back to really expensive bottles, you're starting to see some of that here. Some of the Goose Island sours kind of showed up here that were kind of crazy pricey. Um, in that once you get above $20 for a bomber, you're really, really pricey as far as I'm concerned. That's kind of the point at which, above 10, if it's below 10, I'm like, it's not that bad.
Right.
10 to 15 is kind of, that's, if it's good, then I'm fine with paying
Yeah,
that.
I mean, if it's Firestone Walker
Above,
Parabola, you do that in a heartbeat.
obviously, 15 to 20,
Right.
you kind of get to that, wow, that's a pricey beer. Above 20, it gets into that, like, I really pick and choose. But,
Yeah.
and this is kind of where I land whenever you talk about pricey beer, a $20 bottle of wine is just a regular bottle of wine, ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
And some of this really super high-end, super rare, crazy, like, expensive beer is priced the way that ordinary, people who drink a lot of wine, who have the budget for it, will not balk at spending $50 on a bottle of wine if it's like, this is the bottle of wine I want. And I think that those kind of beers are meant to be consumed in that way. And so, for me, I think that the idea that people are buying it because it's rare and they can trade it is more of the issue. If there was enough of it made that, like, oh, there's this high-end bottle, but it's meant to be this high-end bottle that you can go buy if you want it and split it or have it with dinner or whatever you want to do. But I think there is some artificial inflation of some of the pricing because people will just, buy it regardless of what it is.
Yeah, there definitely is. I mean, it's rare, so it must be really good. Like, no, it might not be good. It might be just some standard imperial stout or something like that. I mean, Jesus Christ, check
And
yourself.
there was a De Proof beer. I went to the Central City Tap House after the tour today, and there was a De Proof sour on tap. And I'm like, hey, can I get a sample of that just to try it? And it was delicious, but it was also $10 for a 10-ounce pour. And I'm like, you say at a bar like that, a beer like that, yeah, I would have really enjoyed 10 ounces of that. And I really thought about it. I'm like, this is like the one situation where I was alone, I was eating some food, and I'm like, I would love to have that, but I also don't want to spend $10 on it, So, but I don't know. I feel like we've kind of talked about that. Any more thoughts about expensive beer, Ryan? Or are you feeling pretty good?
My comment on that is I'm trying to buy less of it.
Yeah.
It's easy to get sucked into it.
You're trying so hard. It's they just
it's,
take my money and the beer just shows up at my house. I don't know how it happens.
Oh, every time I get scared every time I see an AleSmith newsletter in my inbox. It's like I was literally at the brewery once. I saw Bill Batten, one of the brewers. He's been with AleSmith a long time. At one time, I'm like, "Here, Bill, here's my wallet. Just take it." Because I mean, you want my money, you're gonna get my money. Just take my wallet. Because I mean, AleSmith makes amazing beers, and it's really hard to pass up when you have the opportunity to buy a lot of the amazing beers they do. But I'm trying to cut back. Home brewing definitely helps that aspect for me these days as I increase my fermentation capacity and hopefully get some more kegs as well. And
I love that your homebrew setup is enough that it was like, I need to improve. I need to increase my brew capacity. I'm up to 8 barrels. A year capacity.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm trying to expand like a lot of craft breweries are in North America and Europe these days. But
Ryan pretends he's not going to be a professional brewer one day, but that's just
Hey, if you're out there, if you want to pay me about what I'm making now, I could maybe a little less. I don't know. I got to be able to afford to live in this house, pay my mortgage. But if you want to pay me that, I'll come brew for you, no problem. So. That's not an issue there. It's just I think despite some of these crazy high beer prices, the people making it, the people doing it, unless you're really high up in the company, are not probably making a whole lot of money in your. So it's still very blue collar workforce in craft beer, and there's a lot of breweries probably not making a whole lot of money either, just doing it for the love of it, the art of it.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's wrap up the show, the actual podcast episode, because I think we're just kind of rambling at this point. And then we'll do like an extra 20 minutes or 30 minutes or so of like live show for the 2 or 3 people that are actually watching this. And I'm speaking really optimistically that there are actually more than Paul is watching this right now.
Right.
Do we? So let's wrap up, and then we'll do some comments, and we'll kind of end the live show. Everybody good with that? Any further comments on anything that we've said tonight?
That'll do it.
Okay. Lee, let's start with you. Where can people find your work on the internet? I know you have a podcast that's going on now, so you should plug that for sure.
Yeah, it hasn't started yet, but I'm actually serious about it now because I actually have like PayPal, and I'm actually going to be buying some podcast service and some actual fucking software to actually record a proper podcast. So I'm going to be doing a movie podcast at some point. But until then, it's just Hoagly Beer Reviews. Look for me on fucking.
Can you spell Hoagly for me, just for
Hougly?
I know how to spell it, but the listeners may not. So.
Yes.
Ryan, tell us where to find your stuff.
A few spots. I just finished up today my latest column in West Coaster Magazine, so that's westcoastersd.com. The August issue should be out in probably a few days here. I do my monthly homebrew column, and I'll do a future vlog on that on my YouTube channel, which is creatively titled Stumpy Joe Jr. But I mean, it's really called San Diego Beer Vlog, but that's the channel name to plug into the URL. And then BeerGeekNation.com, I'll throw up not all my reviews, but most of my reviews will go up on there at some point. Of course, BeyondThePour.com for this podcast. And I do have a Twitter account. It's R3Cubed. And let's see, what else to plug? Oh, I do have a Facebook page, sdbeervlog or not .com, but it's like Facebook /SD-beervlog with the
San Diego Beer Vlog on Facebook.
VLOG for the not with a B. So anyway,
San Diego Beer Vlog is a completely different person.
Yeah, and he unfortunately is not really paying attention to the beer scene anymore that I'm aware of, and the website's down. Maybe I should just buy it off him and fire up the.
Offer him $10. Offer him a bottle of Parabola. He'll take it.
Just some homebrew, but yeah. Hopefully, I'm trying to get my YouTube channel a little more variation between homebrewing, just doing some fun with craft beer to go along with the reviews. But I don't know. I still get stuck in the doing the review stuff, which I do still enjoy, but wish there was a little more variation going on. So anyway, Daniel, where can we find you?
Yeah, that you were supposed to go 10 seconds and say the things. If you we're wrapping up here, we're ending. People turned off 10 minutes ago.
I'm busy.
We're good.
I have a lot going on, so.
No, that's fair. All right, so for me, BeyondThePour.com. It might be BeyondThePour.wordpress.com shortly, because I have to decide whether or not I actually want to pay the $30 a year to keep it up. If I'm only going to be doing these every 4 or 5 months or less, but I'll decide that in the next couple of days. We'll see how that goes. You can follow me on Twitter, Daniel E. Harper, or on Tumblr, but I don't really talk about beer that much on my Tumblr. And I have a Doctor Who podcast at oispaceman.libsyn.com, and you can listen to that if you want to listen to me talk about Doctor Who with my wife. Or
can go take a tour with you in person.
Or you can come take a tour with me in person if you live in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or some West Michigan location. You can come and talk to me on a beer tour. All the downtown Kalamazoo beer tours are sold out. We're trying to maybe expand them into September, which would be nice. But the private tours, you can go to westmichiganbeertours.com or westmibeertours.com, I think is actually the URL. And if you want to go visit some Michigan breweries, you can talk to my boss and maybe request me to be on your tour. And that would be cool for me because that's not happened yet. So that would be awesome. Or you can come to Tiffany, since we mentioned it earlier, and then I talk about beer for free there. But I also have to stock shelves, so you don't get to just talk to me about beer all the time. Or you can just email me. There are lots of ways to get a hold of me, but there are other things to do. To do that. Anyway, wrapping up the show. Anything else anybody wants to add? Sorry, man, this has gone way, way long.
No, this is the longest outro we've ever done, so let's
I know. Yeah,
stop it right now.
We've forgotten how to do this is really the key.
It's been far too long.
What's funny is I started, and I'm going to make this outro go even longer because I'm going to say I started this whole thing. There's a podcast I used to listen to, and I just haven't listened to in a long time, and they literally would have like an 8-second thing. You can find me on Twitter here. You can find me I blog at this website, and check me out. And it's like 8 seconds. And I always expected you guys to just have like this thing, and I never actually said like, have like something you say as like your thing. And
you forget I don't give a shit about promoting myself, so it's very awkward.
I should just say you did not answer, and therefore I will.
Yes,
get that out of the
you're
podcast.
deleted. You are deleted.
You are gone. In fact, I will go through and delete all your comments during the podcast. You are now deleted from the. Yes. I will do extra work to make that not happen any longer.
Oh, you're the best Cyberman I've ever met.
Delete, delete, delete.
That's how you should just edit right there, and that should be the end of the podcast.
That's the Doctor Who podcast.
Delete,
Yeah.
delete,
Anyway,
delete.
So there we go. All right. And remember, drinking good beer isn't just a beverage option, it's a lifestyle choice. Thanks a lot for joining us for this extended outro and a kind of crazy episode. And cheers. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot.
Cheers.
All right. I need to go get another beer. I figure we'll do another 20 minutes of talking to Paul.
Yeah, I got
it.
It says we have. Oh, someone just dropped out. So we have 7 viewers now, according to this.
7 viewers. Wow. I want everyone viewing this right now to identify themselves and ask a question.
Yes, make comments, and we'll be back to read them here in a few seconds.
We'll be back. We'll be back. I have to go piss. Everybody's gonna go. There's gonna be a blank room, and we'll
I'll be here.
All right. Oh. We should go in. We should go individually.
I already took my break. You guys take your break.
All right.
I'll figure
Ryan,
out how...
you look at the comments and you see if there's anything you want to respond to. But Lee, you're still in charge. You're keeping them in line for us.
All right.
I know. I gotta forget how it works in terms of finding our video on YouTube.
Yeah, it posts like once you end the thing, it like posts like a few minutes later, and then you can download it and send it to me and all that sort of thing.
Will do. So.
Yeah. So should I do another Two-Hearted? I think I've got a Humalupa left, or I could do an Oscar Blues. I've got a...
Which Oscar Blues?
I've got a Little Yellow Pills, and I've been buying those Conundrum packs.
The variety ones.
The variety ones, and such a great, I bought 4 of them in the last few months, It's such a great thing to have, I think I've got 1 Dale's Pale and 1 Little Yellow Pills left in the fridge right now. So I could do one of those. I've already done Hoppy. I'm probably just going to grab I'll probably just go grab a Humalupa.
Yeah, I think you should do that after the Two-Hearted. Just make it a Hoppy Michigan type of end of the night, beer-wise.
All right, I'm going to go pee, and I will be back, and then we will answer questions.
Yeah. Well, actually, I'm going to answer some questions while everyone's gone here.
Yes, Daniel's penis is very small.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out where we left off here since Lee was keeping up on the comments. Maybe Jane's saying, I don't know, maybe the comment was regarding money, unless it's Cantillon. The thing about Cantillon is, going to the brewery, it's really, really cheap there. And then once you go outside of the brewery, it gets really expensive. Even in the shops in Belgium, it's still reasonably cost compared to what you can find in North America. Then it's just crazy expensive, but so cheap when you're at the brewery. I wish I could have brought back a pallet of beer. Jacob Schweikart, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Anyway, yeah, thanks for just commenting on how we're doing a good job. Thanks for the comment, man. Really appreciate it. Paul's going to do a 15-gallon brew setup. Nice. That will be a good setup. Oh, Dan, you're on here. Can Daniel say because for me, please? Yeah, we're going to have to wait till he gets back for him to do that. I'll tell him he has to do that. Paul, you're disgusting. I'm not even going to read that comment, Paul, but glad you're watching. Cheers to you. Paul has some very inappropriate comments I'm not going to read, Lee. So
No?
No. Actually, I'm going to take these plugs out now that we're done properly recording. That was just in case we had a crazy echo going.
Yeah. Okay, so what kind of inappropriate?
Yeah, I'm not going to read that one, but
What
but,
did he finally broke his parabola cherry?
No, I don't know.
What did I miss?
Just Paul with some inappropriate comments, but you know how it goes.
Well, it'll be in the audio. I'll listen to it later.
Yeah. Let's see. He says.
No, you can read it because I'm not reading it. I'm not reading it to everyone. They can go and see. But
Okay, well, I'm gonna read him. So, he says no one talks about beer like that for 2 hours. Only people talk about Molson Canadian and Milwaukee's best for that long. Inside brew tube joke. Yes, indeed it is.
I think I know who he's talking about, though.
Yeah. He said he finally broke his parabola cherry. Awesome. He says, King of the Forest, beware expensive rare beer. That's also sort of an inside joke. We had this beer from Dark Horse called King of the Forest at Albino Rhino's Fest, which was essentially a beer that went bad, and they released it as a sour.
Yep. I've had some of those type of beers.
Rue Vivant actually did that once, and the beer was not that. It was not that good, but it really wasn't bad either. So you know.
Yeah, this was terrible.
You know, if it's drinkable, and they feel like they're not going to kill their name, I don't have a problem with it. But
yeah, it wasn't. I mean, honestly, it wasn't even really all that drinkable. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, you know, a lot of these new breweries understand they need to make money. They don't have a lot of money to begin with. But ultimately, you need to dump that batch of beer. You need to dump it. I know it costs money, but you got to dump it because you're going to ruin your reputation. And with more and more options being available these days of craft beer drinkers, it just makes no sense. And I just don't understand it. You know, just dump it. If it's not to your standard, you're going to ruin your name. And there's a lot of breweries in San Diego. I mean, there's 90, you know, when you have 90 breweries in the county, there's bound to be, you know, at least 10 really mediocre, if not awful breweries, just probability. And
yeah.
There's San Diego, where all the breweries are above average.
No, not all of them. I mean, there's probably 5 breweries I will never go to. Either I'll never go to or I'll never go back again. Just, they're that bad. And unless I hear otherwise, and I wish them the best, but yeah, just...
Yeah, I don't think this hurt Dark Horse's name at all. I mean, that's the sad thing. It's like it doesn't seem like it's really hurt them.
Well, I mean, you know, sitting here drinking on Alpine Duet, you know, Alpine makes some amazing hoppy beers, but they've released some really shitty stuff, including infected barrel-aged beers, and didn't offer refunds.
Are you guys going to watch the new Dark Horse reality show?
Oh, yeah. I heard about that. So, I know a guy. I'm not going to say his name. but he's known as Don't Drink Beer, and he does a very interesting commentary on beer geek culture these days.
Sure.
This, to me, quite hilarious.
Yeah,
He's
no.
very, very cynical about a lot of things. He's very blunt about a lot of things. But mostly, he makes fun of beer geeks, which I find incredibly awesome.
Is really something people should do. Make fun of us.
And that's what he does. And so, if you go to don'tdrinkbeer.com, you can read his commentary on the Dark Horse Nation show that's coming up, and it's freaking hilarious. I was laughing.
It's Duck Dynasty with beer, is what it is.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
I was
Dark Horse makes
I was there on a day they were filming, so you know.
Okay.
They actually have, like, if you go to the brewery these days, they actually have. They make great beer. They make some great beer.
Although I'll say this, as long as one of them doesn't like stand up in a church and start saying anti-homosexual things and
exactly, you know, like it really is like it's a family business. It's in a kind of a weird industry. It's a bunch of guys with beards.
Right.
And they're kind of rednecks. They're Michigan rednecks, but they're kind of rednecks. And that's going to be the show. And it's not going to be like, I mean, people have been trying to crack that nut of like exactly how you take advantage of this beer geek culture and like our kind of growing craft beer industry and turn it into a TV show for a while. Dogfish Head kind of crashed and burned on that, just you know, because it was maybe, I mean, you know, the Brewdogs is in season 2 on theirs. I have not seen a single episode because it sounds horrible to me. But
no, you know. Okay, so I had not seen any Brewdogs, but I got lucky going back to my flight back from Detroit from the Homebrewers Conference. I was actually on a modern enough airline. Aircraft that they had the individual touchscreen where you could watch TV shows and movies and play games and all that stuff. They had Brewdogs on the flight. I watched 4 episodes to kill that flight. It was actually a really short flight. I actually do like that show. I think after going to London,
and then we're going to go to do this gimmick and this gimmick,
right.
And it sounds like a TV show.
It's very produced. Don't get me wrong; it's very produced, but their show is broken up, and they're very genuine guys. I definitely had a problem with. I thought I had a problem with Brewdog. I thought they were ripping off Stone. It seemed
they are
not very genuine.
Stone. Yes. No, it sounds genuine, but it sounds like they're ripping off Stone.
Yeah, and you know, I went to Brewdog Camden when I was out in London, and I got to try their beers fresh and kind of got an idea of what they're doing, and got a little more of appreciation for them. And then I watched the show on my flight back, and I'm like, they seem like cool
wait a
guys.
minute.
They don't
Your
seem like they're
cousin
dead.
works for Brewdog, so now you're saying nice things.
No, I don't care.
I get it.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Right.
It doesn't work for Stone or Brewdogs anymore. So,
yeah.
But I like the show because they're ultimately promoting craft beer, and that's a good thing. And they're doing fun stuff. The show is really constructed well, where they're going to do some wild, crazy thing, but they're also promoting that city's beer scene and telling you about the beer scene, and they're promoting food pairings with beer and doing a lot of ultimately good things for the industry with that show. So
all right, I'm gonna sit down and watch it. Fuck it.
I know. I'm sorry to disappoint you because the bash it. And am I curious about Dark Horse Nation? No, absolutely.
There's a bar in town that's actually doing a watching party, a viewing party for you know. I mean, it's 40 minutes from here. You know, of course people are gonna.
Right.
I'll say this about Dark Horse Nation. I mean, yeah, it's a reality show. There's going to be some fuckery going on, but I mean, at least that is those guys. I mean, they didn't grow beards for the show. I mean, it's not like Duck Dynasty where all those guys are a bunch of fucking white-collar yuppie Republicans who decided to pretend to be fucking hillbillies for their show. I mean,
I've actually met a couple of people from the Dark Horse, who are going to be on that show. I've met a couple of them, and It seems like that's kind of who they are, but it's still like it's ultimately manufactured and prepackaged.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, every reality show is that way, but I mean, at least they're more authentic than Duck Dynasty.
Yeah, I think the difference between say the
More
Duck,
authentic than Duck Dynasty. It's a little bit like less homophobic than Duck Dynasty. It's like a low bar, you know.
I know it's a very low bar to go to reach for, but I mean it's something at this.
we need James Cameron here to set the bar like he did in that South Park episode. But no, but at least with the Brewdogs, it's not a reality show. This isn't day-to-day operations of Brewdogs.
Right.
These crazy Scotsmen coming to the States, going to different cities, and doing fun stuff. I mean, it's not meant to be like, we're going to make up scenarios during their, quote, normal work day. No, they're out there to do weird, fun stuff. That's the point of it. They're not pretending that this is our glimpse into everyday operations at Brewdog up in Ellen, Scotland. If you look up where Ellen, Scotland is, it's way the hell up north on the east coast of Scotland. Far, far away from Edinburgh and Glasgow. I mean, they're up in single malt territory. Yeah, I mean, unless you're into single malt Scotch whiskey, you probably don't know where the hell that is. But yeah.
Do we have any more comments?
We do.
Paul says buy it at Binny's, which of course is where you get all your Midwestern Wales, according to Don't Drink Beer.
Dan ABA says
Binny's is a really great liquor store in Chicago.
Dan has a request for you, Daniel.
Yeah, can you say the word because?
Because?
Yes. Just
is
for
there
him.
Is there something wrong with the way I say because?
I think he likes how you say it.
Because
it's a little bit of that southern thing coming through. I don't know. I don't know.
Give me a sentence to say, and I will say it like that way. Like
While you figure out a sentence, I'm grabbing another beer.
Because
Daniel hates Chad 9976 because.
Daniel hates Chad 9976. Actually, I haven't even talked to him in forever, so I'm not even. I will say, and this is because he was always very nice and polite to me, et cetera, et cetera. He and I have had our issues in the past, but lately he has been reblogging and commenting positively on a lot of the skeptical rationalist stuff that I post on Facebook, and I think he's getting to the point where he understands. I don't know. It seems like wow. I feel like you've maybe learned something from reading something that I posted on Facebook, which is an amazing thing. Nobody learns anything on Facebook, but he and I have gone back and forth on politics on a number of occasions, and that's it.
Yeah. Let's see. Jacob Schweikart. Holy shit, Jacob Schweikart. That's a name I actually know. Subscriber of mine. He says, hey guys, great to see you doing a cast together. I haven't been able to keep up with you guys on YouTube in a long time as I've been working on my career in brewing. I'm stoked you guys are still doing a great job in growing the community. Well, thank you, sir.
I'm doing nothing to grow the community. Thank you. Cheers.
Yeah. And he also says, Ryan, I'm getting to work at Cantillon for 8 months next year and wondering what you thought of Belgium and some tips for going there. Interesting.
Wow. That's pretty crazy. You must send me beer, first of all, and then I'll tell you the rest. No.
No. You have to send me beer, then he'll tell you the rest.
Yeah.
The brewery itself is sort of in a ghetto part of Brussels. I did not care for Brussels. I kind of felt it was a really dirty city. But between Cantillon, Delirium Cafe, and Motor Lambic.
He only says it's a really dirty ghetto city because it rained or something.
No, it didn't rain. It was actually quite warm when we were there. But the brewery itself is is amazing. One of the most amazing experiences I've had in doing beer stuff, because you go into that brewery and you smell the brewery and you're like, that's what's in the bottle. I mean, all that funky aroma and all that. You know, they talk about using the coolship and the wild yeast floating through the air, through the from outside into the coolship and starting the fermentation. And I'm sure that happens to some extent. That yeast and all that funk and bacteria, that's everywhere in that place. It's permeated into it for over 100 years now. And it's an amazing place. It's weird to see this really modern bottling line, though, in there, because everything is ancient. They're using pulley systems to run motors and do stuff. They're running pulleys, lifting barrels up, you know, because it's like 3 stories up and down, but then you have this like really sleek modern bottling line, which is kind of funny, but it works. And they're not afraid to do new stuff. That part, I mean, I don't know. Hope you know French, because they speak French in Brussels, and I don't know any French. So, it should be fun. I actually ran into a guy while I was touring the brewery. I happened to be shooting video. You can go watch the video on my YouTube channel. But I was also wearing a Brewery Reserve Society hoodie while I was in there, because it was actually pretty cool inside there, and I think that's what helps their barrels. It's very cool inside the brewery for the most part, even though it's fairly warm out. And one of the guys was from Kentucky, of all places, who was interning there. And I think he saw me shooting video, maybe speak, and then saw my hoodie, like, oh, you must be from America, because you have a brewery hoodie and all that. So we got to talking and found out he was from Kentucky and bought a one-way ticket to Belgium and ended up working there. So lucky for him. Amazing place. That's all I have to say. Just, I don't know how you work that out, but I don't know. I was lucky. You know, the weird thing is, Europe was, I was told, oh, you can take a 2-hour train ride from London to Brussels. I'm like, no way. It's only 2-hour train ride? And you kind of forget how, when you live in California, how compact everything is in Europe.
The difference between Europe and America is, in Europe, well, in America, we think 100 years is a long time.
Well, that too, yeah.
I think 100 miles is a long distance, you know, like.
Right, I'm in London, and we go to the Cheshire Cheese, and I might be butchering that pronunciation, but it was a pub from, you know, the 17th century. They were like, oh, this pub opened in like 1650 or 1625 or something. There's been a pub
You can go
at
drink
this site.
where Shakespeare drank. In
Right,
London.
exactly, and it's like, and then the best part of that pub was that, you know, you go down to the cellar area downstairs was the open portion of it, and the upstairs was a little more kind of modern and large, and so we're about to go down to where the bar that was open, and then the kitchen was kind of down that way, and I looked down the stairwell. I'm like, I don't think I can fit down there. I mean, the damn thing's built for hobbits. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm 6'3", and I'm literally going down the steps in the walking fetal position just to get down these steps. It's like, am I in a cave spelunking? I mean, it was crazy.
Built for people who probably didn't get it over 5'7" for the most part.
Oh, you'd be ducking if you're above 5 foot, you're going to be ducking. I mean, it's literally like that small. I mean, if you're over 5 foot, you're going to be ducking anyway.
Well, I think the more pertinent detail is constructed before there were power tools.
Right, yeah. But I mean, it was an amazing place to have a pint of Sam Smith's extra stout, you know, on cask, and have pie and mash in London. I mean, I was in heaven. I mean, really, it was phenomenal. I'm in London. I'm having pie and mash with Sam Smith's on cask in a pub that's been open for over 400 years. It's like ridiculous.
I need to get to London sometime. That's the key. I've got to get
Yeah,
out.
I mean, it was an amazing experience.
I think the three of us should go and reenact the world's end.
Okay, see, I need to watch that
Might have
movie.
seen Aliens. Thank you very much.
I need to watch that. First of all, and I'm a fan of Simon Pegg, but I have not seen that movie.
If you are a fan of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, you will love that movie.
I've
That's
seen
all I
it.
have to
I don't know if I'd say I'm a fan necessarily. but
It is Invasion of the Body Snatchers mixed with excessive drinking. That is
then I'll love it.
It's
You will.
really an extended metaphor about alcoholism, and it's
Yes, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. No, I've already been.
There's deeper
Also, you're-
subtext if you want it.
But I've already been told I'm gonna love it
really
anyway.
uncomfortable about 3/4 of the way through. You're like, this is really aimed at me. I feel really bad right now.
But
I've already been told I'll love it. I just need to watch it.
I took this to a really serious place, but you know.
But honestly, that's the same with Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead, 2/3 through it, all of a sudden it gets kind of uncomfortable because it gets fucking real. So I mean,
That's the way it goes. So,
Yeah.
Do we have more comments? Because I'm kind of. I mean, we could sit here and chat all night, but.
let's see here.
Chatting on. Although, no, I should go to bed soon.
Okay. Anyway, I'm drinking my my wit beer right now, my Belgian wit,
Nice.
which
Yeah,
I brewed with kumquats because my boss's friends have like a huge kumquat tree, and they're like, we have more fruit and we know what to do with them. I'll take it. I will. First, I like to eat them, and then second, I need to brew a wit beer with it instead of the orange peel. I'll do the kumquats. So I brewed it, and it became really coriander forward, and then half the keg was already gone, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna throw some more fruit in there. So I threw more kumquats. I threw kaffir lime leaves, kaffir lime, actual fruit, some other kind of mini citrus. I can't remember the name of it, but they're probably some kind of Asian lime sort of thing. I forget the name of it, but used in probably a lot of like Southeast Asian cooking and that kind of thing. And I threw it all in there, and it's like, damn, this is tasting really good right now.
Sweet. Yeah, as far as
Anyway, sorry. Comments.
I was gonna say, as far as comments goes, Paul says Chad's a douche tool, and he thinks he's been told Brussels isn't a nice place compared to all the other places in Belgium.
I'm told Bruges is the magical, stereotypical, old fairy tale like European city that's
Colin Farrell will shoot people, so
Yeah, I'm scared now that like Colin Farrell or someone's going to shoot me in Bruges if I went there. So.
Oh, okay.
Or
Gotta
a
get
midget,
to Bruges.
or a midget's going to insult me or something like that.
Yeah.
But I hope to get back to Belgium in a couple years and check out other places other than Brussels. Because, I mean, that was literally just an overnight trip to Brussels, which I really do want to go back to Brussels. And maybe I was there on the wrong type of day or whatever when it seemed a little dirtier than it normally is. But
Shorter Ryan right now. Well, I did get to go drink like half liters of Cantillon at the brewery, but like it
yeah, I
wasn't a great experience,
It was
Seriously, when you're at
okay.
yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous when you get to Motolambic and then look at the beer list, and they're like, oh, we have the rare Cantillon Fafoon apricot beer on draft, and then my jaw drops, and I'm like, it was almost like they wrote up the menu just to fuck with me, and just to tease me.
Maybe you were coming.
And they knew I was coming, and they're like, you know what would be great?
On the way. An American's coming.
Yeah, it'd be great. It's like, let's just like put that on the list just to screw with him, and we'll tell him it's all out. And when he goes to order it, we'll tell him, oh no, that's all gone. So I thought that was going to happen for sure. And then my cousin Joe and I were like, I'm like, Joe, this is what you want. Like, we're just going to drink this for pretty much the whole time we're here, maybe until we kick the keg. But yeah. So I went to order it, and they brought it to us. And they're like, no, it's not gone. I'm like, did I die?
Imagine, like ordering a keg, like I'm carrying the like 5 gallons of Fufun, you know?
Okay, which kind of gets me to another story. So apparently you can go get a box of lambic.
Do the conversion, but yes.
Right. But anyway, apparently in parts of Belgium you can go get literally a box of lambic, like 3 to
Like a
like
box of
3
wine?
to 5 liters, and like a plastic bag that comes in a box. And in straight lambic is
wine style,
Yes.
like you just buy lambic
like
that
box
way.
wine lambic, like 5 liters, like 3 to 5 liters or something. And regular lambic, like traditional lambic, is not carbonated. It's young beer. You drink it straight from the cask, or you drink it.
It's just a hobo drink there.
Sort of, yeah. And it was kind of so my goal. A friend of mine was out there, and he like his whole goal, like the whole trip, was like, I got to get a box of lambic, and we'll take it back we'll drink it on the train, we'll drink it back at the hotel, and I thought that was hilarious.
Buy a box of lambic if I could buy like, and I want it to look as much like Franzia as possible, and I want it to be like, you know, I want to get like Cantillon in a box and just like, post
Right.
all over like Facebook and Twitter and be like, oh, look at this crappy like thing I had to buy for like
That would
This like picture of you just lifting this box over, just drinking straight from it, like you're like you're
that
doing
would-
it.
I want to get a keg of like Cantillon and then do a keg stand with
Yes, exactly.
that would destroy some North American minds. It
Yeah,
really
so my beer bucket list was to go to Cantillon and get drunk on Cantillon beer at Cantillon. Well, thankfully I got to check that one off the list, because that did happen.
nice, yeah.
But the next thing would be to do keg stands from a Cantillon keg. That's my next goal in life. For beer wise.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I mean,
Any more comments? I feel like we're like winding down.
yeah.
Public consumption, anyway, you know.
Other than there's not really all that much other than
Paul had to say, Paul, you need to fucking get a webcam. That's the.
yeah, he really does.
Isn't he like at work when he watches this or something?
He
weird?
is. That's
Paul?
the only.
Yeah.
He uploads his videos at work. That's how
Right,
back.
That's what I thought.
That's how backwoods that sir is. Jacob Swaycart says, thanks, that's awesome. I'm glad you told me it was kind of ghetto. I don't know about the city much at all. I do know a bit of French. I've been working at Tro de Diable in Quebec for the last few months before I go back to brewing school. I'll try to bring you some beer, though. Right on.
Oh, he'll be fine if he's working at a French type of brewing.
Yeah.
Because he'll at least learn basic, French communication.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally go in and it's like, crap, I know like 3 French words. It's kind of like, let me get Google Translate out and
Pretty
try to
much.
figure this out. I mean, thankfully I can't
Not
they
even
know.
try, just like show it to them. Just go like
No.
that. You want?
Here's the thing about Belgium. It's like, I don't know how you go there and like, how's this work? How do you have a country that has like 4 official languages? How does this work? I mean,
Belgium
Yeah.
has been
it's
a
amazing.
stable national country, like an actual like unified political force for all of like 12 years in the last 4 centuries.
Yeah. Pretty much.
The key to Belgium. Like,
And it's weird, even if you can speak French Canadian, you go to Belgium or France, it's almost a different language. I mean, honestly, it is.
Yeah, I mean, Spanish,
Well, talk your French
is
Canadian.
different from Mexican Spanish. I mean, no question
Yeah.
about
Castilian Spanish.
it. Yeah, I mean, there's always little dialects and pronunciations that get, that are different. So, I have no idea how it is in Brussels, but
I really want to go back to Prague. I'm excited.
oh yeah, love to go to Prague. I mean, especially these days. You're saying like the craft beer scene's starting to take off there.
It's blown up, and like 4 years ago, I was there, and like from everything I've read, it's like it's a different world there today than it was. You know.
Yeah, I mean it's fun to hear about all the stuff like Prague and places in Italy and South America starting to kind of come up. I mean, and right across the border in San Diego, I mean, like Tijuana, Ensenada, parts of Mexico are really starting to take off. And, you know, I don't really want to go down to Mexico because there's always the risk that you're going to get your head chopped off. And that might be a little dramatic. But, I mean, there was a period of time where there was a lot of headless bodies around down in Mexico. But,
yeah, that's not.
I mean, but if you meet up with some local guides, it's really not going to be an issue. But, like the craft beer scene in Mexico is starting to take off. It's spilling over the border, and that's really exciting to me to see at least somewhat locally. And
just to bring this full circle here, you know, like imagine what the beer scene in Berlin looks like 5 years after Stone opens up.
Oh yeah, sure.
You know.
So the one thing I will say when I was in Berlin, it was really hard to find Berliner Weiss.
I really want Stone to make like a hoppy Berliner Weiss, like Stone style Berliner Weiss. You know, we make a Berliner Weiss with you know, Matsuika.
40 IBU Berliner Weiss.
Yeah. No, like 100 IBU Berliner Weiss.
Oh well, then it won't work. But
I just want to see those traditional breweries like slapped in the face and made to wake up.
So
to actual craft brewing.
Yeah, I think is Schneider the one that's doing some of the like using actually newer hops,
like Hopfenweiss, and they're doing the.
Yeah, I think Schneider's kind of doing a little bit of that. They're kind of like breaking traditional German ingredients, and they're kind of embracing some of the newer ones. So that's kind of cool to see, but they're still staying within their realm of traditional German styles. They're just kind of embracing different hops.
I think that's what the opposition to Stone really is there. I mean, it's like, people don't seem to understand that, like, in Europe, it really is like family-owned traditional breweries. I mean, it really is. I mean, that is
the big multinationals too, you know. But
yeah, you do, but for a lot of the ways, it's like those traditional family-owned breweries, whether they're owned by multinationals or whatnot, and they don't necessarily communicate with each other like craft breweries do in North America. I mean, there's not that sort of camaraderie between breweries that you see in North America, and if Stone can sort of implement a bit of that into European brewing, awesome. Go for it.
Yeah, and I think Berlin is more ready than some people realize. And this is just based on my little bit of my experience being there for 3 days. But I did go to this place, kind of like a hip new sort of restaurant. They did German style like tapas. So take your more traditional German dishes, but break them down to like the Spanish style tapas presentation, you know, really kind of hip, more artisanal, and they had 2 beers on draft. They had a Pilsner and a Hefeweizen, so very, very German, but it was locally brewed, small batch, you know, craft beer. The Pilsner was even unfiltered, which is kind of rare to see. I mean, the Pilsner was almost as cloudy as the Hefeweizen, so you kind of have the Zwickel, I guess is the unfiltered name.
The Zwickel is aged.
Is it aged? Okay.
Yeah, it's not just unfiltered. It's unfiltered.
It's just unfiltered. Okay.
It's aged for like 10 months or so.
It didn't say that name, but I thought that might mean more.
But unfiltered. Yeah, it's tending towards that. I mean,
right.
What I love, and this is kind of where I land on some of this, like going to Prague, and I know that Germany kind of has similar issues, but going to Prague and like we've kind of taken all this stuff and we just call it a Czech Pilsner, when it's like there are like 10 different styles that are really like, and we
Right.
just all call it, oh yeah, it's Czech Pilsner. It'd be like just saying, like, everything from Latitude 48 from Sam Adams to Two Hearted to Arctic Panzerwolf to Duet. And you say, oh, it's an IPA.
Right.
You know.
You know.
And here's the thing, and this is getting really back into the ultra geeky stuff, but
We don't do that here.
oh, okay, sorry. But we're going to get into BJCP style guidelines.
Oh, fuck
That
that.
are not revised nearly often enough. Those
Right, so there's a current revision going on with Gordon Strong where he actually includes those different variations of Czech beers in his new guidelines.
He should, absolutely.
And so, I mean, it ties into this conversation, and that's like, I wouldn't even know this if I didn't know Daniel, that there's all these variations of Czech Pilsner, and there's lighter and darker variations. I wouldn't even know this if it weren't for meeting Daniel. I mean, I'd be, unless I read these updated guidelines that just,
well,
there's
for me, going there and seeing like it's very different than what you think it is the key. But then like when I started reading European beer bloggers and I started reading like Czech people, but then like even just like historical people, and then like you look at, and it's like, look, Michael Jackson did a great job of like devising the idea of style guidelines and like kind of giving a broad spectrum, but he didn't know everything. And the idea that we're beholden to the idea that Michael Jackson just kind of knew what was going on, like the fact that robust porter is even a fucking style is ridiculous.
That's kind of weird.
The idea that robust porter is a style, anyway. You could go through the BJCP, and it's just like, man, there's so much stuff that's just like this little dangly bit of like, there are like 4 commercially brewed robust porters, that you buy, anyway.
No, but I mean, but we're increasing our knowledge, especially old styles. I mean, recently, I didn't know there was a beer called Kentucky Common Ale.
Yeah, no, you and I talked about that, I think, on the podcast.
Right, we talked about that before, and it's like, you hear about California Common Ale, and then you start like, wait, what is this Kentucky Common Ale? And then you read about Grotzer, Grzinski, this, it's like the lone traditional Polish style of beer, this 100% oak smoked wheat beer.
Right.
That's. And there's a brewery here in San Diego County that did a version of that, and it was really cool.
Belgium did one. It's a collaboration beer, and I've been thinking about buying one, but then I'm also like, but it's got New Belgium on the label.
Yeah, actually, it's dark too, so it's not traditional.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, it's the Lips of Fate series. I kind of look at the Lips of Fate series. So many of them are delicious, but so many of them are also like, that was overpriced crap, Well,
I mean, the prime example is the Brewery Vivant one, which we both drank together.
We both
reviewed
the Escoffier, the Brewery Vivant version, and the New Belgium version.
Yeah, and the Brewery Vivant version just blows it away. It's a completely different beer.
I still have 2 cans of that, believe it or not.
Nice. Well, that could be doing pretty well.
Yeah, no, one of those is going to you, definitely. So.
Yeah, thankfully on my trip back to Michigan, I was able to pick up some of the beers that Daniel has been owing me for 2 years now.
For a while, it's just one of those things. But I always make it up to you in the end.
Oh yeah, I mean, believe me, guys, I brought back Goose Island King Henry, a couple Bell's Black Notes.
King Henry while you were here, and then you took one back. So.
Which was the one that was actually mine that I told him to put in the fridge because I'm like, I don't want that beer to really age much because it was so good. And then going back to the tour that I was on where Daniel had to go back up to Grand Rapids and come back to Kalamazoo, I get the text like, get the King Henry out of the fridge, we're drinking that. I'm like, absolutely, done, let's do it. And
Like,
Sometimes
after
beer.
that long day, I was like literally like, we are gonna open that 5 minutes after I get in the door. I'm gonna walk in the door. We're gonna sit outside on my back porch, and we're gonna fucking open that King Henry. That was the plan, and that's pretty much what we did. Sorry, Lee, go ahead.
Sometimes beer karma takes a long trip around, but eventually it shows up for the people who are actually invested in it. So
Yeah.
I actually completely agree with that, and it still continues to amaze me. You know, there's some negative aspects to all of this, but I mean, every other weekend sometimes it's like, wow, it's the people you meet, it's amazing.
yeah, I mean, for me, it's been 99% positive, like overwhelmingly positive.
It's really amazing. I mean, I'll just have all these, and I see it.
There's
I
a
mean,
bottle share happening in my house tomorrow night, so you know.
yeah, but it's also like I feel like in at least kind of got the vibe, and maybe I think it's changing in the UK. Is they're kind of like feel like, oh, we're all competitors, we're against each other, and in North America it's been more like, no, we're all against the big guys.
Well, because we have big guys that are like
Right, and we have big guys, and they do in Europe too. I mean,
but
there's
they're
definitely
not that much bigger than there's less of a dividing line, and we've had this conversation on the podcast before.
right,
Like,
but
there's less of a like sharp dividing line where here in the U.S. it's like there's the big three and then there's everybody else.
right.
Yeah, you don't really have a Budweiser in Europe. I mean, honestly, you really don't. I mean, it's not dumbed down as badly as it is in North America as far as the big guys go.
Right, like Carling isn't that much bigger than Fuller's.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and
partly that's prohibition. Like a big part of that is prohibition. And then
yeah,
prohibition, the people that were first in the market got big. I mean, that's just
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, and in the States, I think we're over 3,000 breweries, which I think is, we finally got back to how it was in like 1870 or something like that. It's something insane. Like we're finally to as many breweries as we had like over 150 years ago, which kind of blows my mind.
And people
Considering
ask,
how much larger the population is in
Right.
the States these days compared to where it was in the 19th century.
Mm.
the issue kind of comes down to, and people ask me this all the time, and they say like, "Oh, we got 7 breweries in Kalamazoo. Like, where's the saturation point?
Where's the bubble gonna burst?
When's the bubble gonna burst?" And I go, "Why does the bubble have to burst? Are you drinking beer from these breweries? If you are, you're you know, like they'll stay open. Like that's it. You know, to me, yes, like not all of these breweries is gonna get as big as Bell's or Stone. You know, that's just not gonna happen. But you don't have to. Not every person making not every person making pizza is going to be DiGiorno's either. You know what I mean? Like or Pizza Hut or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it's a different philosophy. You can open a brew pub and keep it open and make beer and make money and make your profits, keep it going indefinitely. And you know, and you don't have to play the beer geek game in order to make money as a brewery. You know, you don't have to play we're always looking for the next huge thing. And I think that's what people miss.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for the most part, you just have to be honest with your customers and make good beer. it's not exactly a
You make a good product and you serve your local market. And that's it.
It's not a hard equation. I mean, there's a lot going into making a brewery. I don't want to diminish that at all, but it's not exactly a hard. It's not a hard equation as far as when you're established.
A ton of hard work, and you've got to like really know how to respond to the people that are buying your beer.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, if there's community support and if who are supporting you, and you're responsive to those people, you can stay open. Like you're not necessarily gonna be, a $1 million, $10 million, $100 million brewery, but you can make your bills, and you can stay open and do what you do.
Yeah. And if you're enjoying doing what you're doing, who the fuck cares if you're a millionaire or not? I mean, if you're making a living and beer is your life, awesome. Keep going.
Here. Cheers.
Sure. All right, should we end on that with the broadcast?
Do we have any more
Sign
comments?
off?
Anybody else?
It's probably just Paul just going nuts. He's probably more drunk than we are, and
he's like just posting on our feed, like
Well, he says the belt.
Anybody typing on our thing,
Yeah, it's Paul and one other dude. Paul says in the Belgian national anthem they actually swear allegiance to the King of Spain. It's fucked up.
okay.
I believe that actually.
Edgar says getting your head chopped off is a legitimate fear, apparently.
Yeah.
Paul questions what are headless bodies drinking? I bet macro lager. You have to have no brain to enjoy that shit. And he says finally Berlin is a world city anyway, so it has nothing really culturally traditional about it overall compared to other parts of Germany.
Well, I mean, there is, Berliner Weiss is their traditional beer. It's just no one makes it anymore. That's the biggest problem about going to Berlin. It's like, I love Berliner Weiss. I went to Berlin. It was hard to find. No one makes it anymore.
Yeah,
it's definitely completely different, I'm sure, than Bavaria and Munich. Eventually I'll get down to Munich and Bavaria and that whole region. But, yeah, I kind of know what he's going with there. There is like this Berliner Pilsner that you see around, and I was just happy to find some places that had Weihenstephaner Hefeweizen on draft, and I just drank the shit out of that.
Yeah. No question. For like 50 cents a draft or something,
It's pretty reasonable, that's for sure. But I will say that Schwarzbier is a little more common than I thought, though. It was kind of like the third alternative. If you don't want Pilsner, if you don't want Hefeweizen, then you can go that route and go darker with that beer.
Well, it's light, darker wheat. That's kind of...
Right, yeah. Exactly. Pilsner, wheat beer, dark, but not stout-like.
Awesome. All right, I think we're done.
Yeah.
We're done.
Well, let's wrap it up for the broadcast.
For 4 hours and talk to you.
We haven't been going 4 hours though, right?
It's
probably
2
more
hours.
like 2.
We've been here for 2, so
Okay, we're good at 2.
I'm just thinking Paul and his long shift, like just.
Oh yeah. We've probably done the 4-hour broadcast, so I mean this is.
I don't know. We've done some really long broadcasts before.
Yeah, we've definitely done on my channel like where Google tells us you have to stop, and then we start it up again and go like another hour and a half.
Yeah, that's usually when Jameson jumps in and starts ranting.
That is true.
He goes. I'm not even. I feel bad. I'm not even.
It's alright. If he's watching, cheers to him. But
yes, exactly. We love you, Jameson.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
love you, Jameson. But that's when Jameson shows up and goes, Pliny the Older is 220 IBUs, because I found a homebrew recipe that calls for, It's like, no, it's not. I'm sorry.
Well, it is theoretically, Daniel, but that's a whole different story. Anyway, all right, let's stop the broadcast.
Somebody's gonna send him an email and be like, Daniel was bad mouthing you.
He's not watching. I wish he was, but
yeah,
he's not commenting. But
yeah,
anyway.
Jameson, if you're watching, cheers. We love you. Seriously.
Absolutely. All right.
All right, we're done.
Time to stop the broadcast.
Bye, guys.
Thanks to everyone that watched. 9, 7, whatever viewers we've had tonight. Appreciate it.
Because the more people are showing up, I will show my dick. Like,
No.
yeah, I'm kind of hoping. Like, if it got up to like 20, I'd be like, here we go. There we go.
Yeah, good luck, 20 viewers? Are you kidding me? We'd actually have to like advertise this.
Yeah, that would be the way to get like 20 viewers. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it up on Beer Advocate. We're doing a podcast.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I wouldn't want Beer Advocate watching this shit.
No, I know.
Beer Advocate, I would love to have Beer Advocate watch this shit. I would argue with them all day.
Well, yeah, if you wanted to take the podcast in that direction to argue with them, yes. Otherwise, no.
But don't go to Beer Advocate. Just go to don'tdrinkbeer.com and beyondthepour.com, and you guys will be good.
No, go to beyondthepour.com first.
Beyondthepour.com, you get our rantings. Then you go to Don't Drink Beer. The comedy.
That's
the comedy of making fun of beer geeks, and you might not get it all because there's a lot of like hip hop references that I don't personally get. But
you're very white. We're all very white on this podcast.
No, I like jazz and blues. I just never got into the hip hop.
I like the music that black people made 50 years ago, but not the.
Pretty much all the music you see today is based off black music, so you can't really complain too much.
Except for that awful, there's a lot of techno, electronic dance music,
country
stuff.
Country.
Yeah. Fuck those people.
Most country these days is completely pop anyway, so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway, enough with the music ranting. We're going to end the broadcast. We'll probably sit and chat. You guys don't get to hear it, so wrap this up. Anyway, cheers, everyone.
Cheers, everybody.
Thanks for Lee, Daniel, joining me on my channel tonight. But beyondthepour.com for the...
If he sends me the video URL, then I'll turn this into an audio podcast.
Okay, that'll work too. Yeah. Cool. All right. Stopping the broadcast now.